Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon, where I'll be talking about the movies, TV shows, merchandising, theme, but I don't know, whatever. If it's related to Disney in any shape or form, then yes, there's a good chance I'll be talking about it. So here we go, I reckon. So here we go. So this kind of similar to one of my previous videos I just did not that long ago, we're just discussing the Barbie franchise. Maybe not one specific entry per se, just the franchise as a whole, and one, yes, even the live action version. I know technically Disney doesn't own Barbie, even though despite the fact that Barbie did appear in some of their products, so Disney adjacent, I guess. But the concept here is that I thought this would be a pretty uh, good little idea where I'd be pretty much just talking about the discussion centers around the idea that why hasn't there been a movie like this where Barbie haven't done a kung fu storyline in any of them animated movies, which I find kind of bizarre, but okay, since there's so many of these movies. So that's basically what the central idea here. Why Barbie has never done a kung fu feature movie. It's like this untapped potential. And while I don't technically have a specific answer of this, really, I'm just going to take a what do you call it, an educated guess here. It just seems weird. So anyway, yeah, when you think about the character of Barbie, she started off as a doll, obviously, with various careers. Of course, she was a doctor. She was a supermodel. Of course, she was a swimsuit individual model, and she was a nurse. You name it. She was so many things. She was an astronaut. But she was all these kind of things, quite obviously. And yes, not just that. She, of course, went on these fantasy adventures in her animated movies. She was a princess on a number of occasions. There was like so many movies where she was a princess, and she was also a mermaid and whatnot. Not only that, of course, she was somebody's older sister. She was a friend, quite obviously. Not only that, the character course, we go on these various adventures as a magical. She wants to sing music. I mean, music has been part of the franchise anyway, but there was that TV show, that central stage, that made the central stage be the wanting to make music, of course. And there was actually a plot line for one of the movies. So there was, I know there's quite a bit of stuff that I am skipping out here because the character was also into, I guess, bike riding, I suppose, because she wants to promote something healthy, I suppose. I reckon, I guess you can say. She was a ballerina, she was a cheerleader, she was also something in regards of the robotic engineers. In total, she had well over 100 different jobs. If you want a specific number, that will be 119 different jobs. Yeah, that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. That's an understatement. And yes, the animated movies also did reflect this, at least to some extent, anyway. So it just seems odd that this was never expressed in the animated movies in the sense that of having her this kind of conflict, kind of in thing, of course. So the absence of the Barbie animated movie in terms of conflict just seems bizarre to me. So that's why I wanted to pose the question: why hasn't there been a movie where this would be explored? Of course. Yes, the most common theme is, like I said in my previous video, when it comes to this animated stuff, of course, working together, quite obviously, work as a team, even if there might be disagreements, let's try to use diplomacy, quite obviously, really emphasizing on friendship, adventure, careers, and fantasy, all of which can still be a part of this no story if they actually went on this route. Quite, and, but yeah, I know when it comes to fighting, I know some people might say that you shouldn't resort to hitting, but I mean, which yes, you shouldn't resort to hitting, uh, but looking at movies like I don't know, like look at Bruce Lee and whatnot, and or Jet Li and whatnot. I mean, you could have I mean, there are characters in kung fu movies that don't want to use violence, but would be forced to use violence. There's even a Bruce Lee movie that he swore not to fight anymore. Maybe you can apply that here. I mean, Bruce Lee, the actor. I mean, his character was not the only one that swore not to use violence. That's actually a more common theme in kung fu movies, actually. And I don't know, maybe she could have a necklace that was made from her friends as a way to just use diplomacy. But I mean, eventually, you're gonna have some kung fu, of course, have some fun. You're gonna eventually have that, of course, and that's fine because that does happen in these kind of kung fu movies. They might swallow our violence, but there's gonna have to be a breaking point in the story because you might have no choice to do so. Because unfortunately, in reality, there are people out there who's going to refuse to listen. Of course, they will refuse to lose reason to refuse to listen to reason, I should say, and it's just unfortunate, and that's part of the reality. It is, and yeah, that there's of course a popularity of kung fu as a global cinema kind of thing, and maybe it was not as popular as it was back in the 60s and 70s, sure, especially when Bruce Lee was around. But yeah, I do believe that kung fu stories can be compelling and popular with diverse audiences. And yes, those various stories in which you can actually do and whatnot. I do feel like Barbie could explore into this if done possible, of course. But let me just wrap things up. I could go on and on. Maybe we should protect a restaurant. That's a popular choice for a plot line. If you think about it, I'm just gonna defend people from the restaurant she's employed at or something. And before anyone says anything like, "Oh, that's just uh, too over the top," just give me a break, really. There's literally an entire Barbie plot line that has a school that's just dedicated its sole purpose is to have train young women to be princesses. That's like the whole plot of one of these movies. And you're willing to accept that as a premise, but her doing kung fu is too much. Oh, okay, like that makes sense. Like, okay. I don't know. Some people just nitpick stuff and just don't make no sense at all. I just think that's weird. And if y'all can believe that there's talking mermaids on the sea that can sing somehow, even though they never know the English language, and you can believe that queens can have magical powers, and you can believe that okay, fairies can do the whole pixie dust thing, and again somehow know English are not their own language, but hey, there you go, I guess. So this should not be too much of a stretch. Yes, yeah, like I was saying before, I do know that's gonna be that concern about, oh, you can be promoting violence, yada yada yada. But you can put it in a balance because considering the fact that it could be a positive thing going on because you can use this as a way to empower women because having women be the main focus in these movies were a part of the storylines before. I mean, when I say kung fu, I mean that was a thing with these movies as well. The other tricky part is to avoid what do you call it, cultural stereotypes. Just because someone's Asian, whether they're Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, or what have you, just because someone's Asian, that in itself does not mean they're gonna know martial arts. No kidding. Like, no kidding. Everybody's capable of learning Kung Fu. Anybody, all right? Anybody's good. I mean, so there are certain martial arts that did originate from certain Asian countries, true, but still. Obviously, violence doesn't have to be the answer, but you might be forced to be in situations where you do have to defend yourself or defend the behalf of others. Maybe you have a situation where that plays out in story. Of course, that doesn't mean she wants to harm people. It doesn't mean she wants to hurt anyone. But unfortunately, in real life, you do have to defend somebody somehow. And you can use Kung Fu in this case, I guess. I suppose. Sure. I don't know. There's like a bunch of ways you can approach this. All right, obviously. But anyway, you can also emphasize on themes like discipline, respect, and being persistent, rather than just going straight to the violence, unless you have to, I guess. And maybe possible salience, maybe there's a kung fu martial arts academy, or maybe there's a fantasy kung fu realm, I guess. Or maybe there could be like a cultural exchange programs international school thing, maybe. I don't know. Sure. Again, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. It doesn't necessarily have to be limited to one specific manner. I reckon. I don't know. But anyway, so there was that. I suppose. Just trying to think on top of my head. I reckon. There are even kung fu, karate, Barbie dolls for Christ's sake. I mean, seriously? It just begs the question even further. So why didn't he do this, really? Ugh. Uh. I guess to summarize this entire thing, you can still focus on the traditional themes that these animated features have been associated with, like teaming up, going on an adventure, focusing on being together as a family or friends, and stuff like this, female empowerment, being together, and have a sense of unity, I guess you can say. And it could be its own solo thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a part of its own continuity or anything. It could be its own separate thing if you wanted to go that for. And if you feel like you don't have to have some kind of restriction, I guess, and whatnot, it could be its own thing, I guess. And yes, you can show discipline, respect, and not follow stereotypes like I was saying before and whatnot, quite clearly. Stuff like that. And show respect for oneself and others, quite obviously trying to use diplomacy, use violence as the I mean, I guess kind of borrowing from some of the old kung fu movies I've watched over the years, where maybe the main character just wants to live their life and help people, but can't do that. I mean, you could have a story where maybe she's just Barbie. I mean, just wants to just live her life and help out with her friends and neighbors, but it's not easy as it seems. And maybe we use the okay, since Barbie's known for makeup, maybe she wants to work at this makeup session, the store. I mean, she there's a makeup store out there, and she is employed there. Maybe that gets attacked by these criminals who want to just trash everything. Maybe, and she has to fight them off. I don't know. This is like a bunch of ways. Maybe she wants to work on a burger joint, and she wants to defend the restaurant because there's many people that keep stealing stuff and whatnot. Maybe use that as a plot line, I guess. Maybe, and she has used her martial arts to defend the place she's working at, I guess. I don't know. There's various ways you can actually do this. Trying to make the kung fu be a part of it, I guess. Or maybe she could work at a coffee shop. Yeah, you can do that. She working at a coffee shop and she could use her kung fu skills to defend it somehow. Because maybe the people her competitors across the street are sending folks to her place to beat her up, I guess, as a way to I guess ruin her business that she's employed at. I don't know. Like I said, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. I don't know. Anyway, that'll be it for now, folks. So, of course, thanks for watching and take care. Until next time. Oh, yeah.